Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
A lovely morning to you wherever you are and you're watching UBC TV. Thank you so much for keeping it with us right from the hour of 6:30 till now. I'm Robert Chirabonyonyitono, and this is an extension of Good Morning Uganda, which is Good Morning Uganda Agenda. Now, we are going to be discussing something very interesting this morning that is regarding our roads. Well, in agenda it was about road safety, but now we are looking at first, how can we ensure that the roads are safe and the roads are good? Now, I have a very interesting character. This is a person who is so passionate when it comes to issues regarding roads. And we all know that among the things we talk about or boast about as Uganda, under the NRM government, apart from peace and security and the tranquility that we are enjoying, is the road network. One would say that in Uganda today, border to border, we are connected by roads. People talk about where they used to spend 3 days moving. Now it's just a matter of hours and they're at their destination. But we want to look at how good are these roads? How safe are these roads? What is the relationship between safety and urban development? We also want to look at the state of our roads in Uganda. And joining me on set is the man I now call Roads, because every time I'm hosting him, it is nothing but the roads. And he happens to be the Executive Director, Uganda Road Sector Support Initiative, and that is Sam Mutabazi Stewart. You're most welcome.
Thank you for having me, and I'm glad once again to be on UBC TV. It's been long since we started having these discussions. Mm-hmm. And I hope that we need to up the game from talking to making sure that we have better statistics. For the last about 10 years, we've been trying to have as in HALF, the death of people on our roads, but instead they have been increasing, as we shall be seeing. The statistics for this year, the people who are dying on the road this year, it has been hovering between 3,800, and this year the police is yet to release the statistics, but it is going to be something like 4,000 people in the year 2022. That's too much. And so I think we hope we will not be only talking, we have to begin implementing to ensure that we have fewer, if anything, no people dying on our roads. And it takes being orderly. Accidents happen because we are not orderly. There is no order.
Well, Sam, before even I go any further, I must say you're very smart. Oh. I love this attire. I don't know if it's your uniform or it is a design. It looks unique. I've not come across someone of late having that combination. This
is my attire that specifically represents the issues of urban development. Some people see me putting it on quite often and they wonder, is it? It's sort of a uniform that represents the issues of orderly urbanization in Uganda. Thank you for appreciating.
You know, these buttons look like pimps. I was like, okay. Those precious stones. But going back to the issue, which is of national concern, that is our roads. First, for the benefit of my viewers, to know who I have in the studios, when we talk about this issue, and we see Uganda Road Sector Support Initiative, what do you do? What is your mandate? Are you an NGO? Are you a government body? So that my listener know that, yes, the credibility and authenticity of the guest I'm having to talk about these issues. Who is Sam Mutabazi and what does this organization do? Where I happen to be the executive director?
Thank you, and it's good that I need to be known. I'm Sam Stewart Mutawazi. I'm the Executive Director of Uganda Road Sector Support Initiative. We've been around since 2010, and we are a non-government organization, but supporting government efforts, supporting private sector, supporting efforts. Although the name has the word road, actually we deal with urban development. Urban development. Of course, urban development has roads. And so we try to promote or to propagate information that is about good living, good urban setting, urban areas that are livable, where people live peacefully and comfortably, and that we promote cities that are productive. We promote cities that have better transport systems. We promote cities and urban areas that have better settlements, human settlements. We promote urban areas that create opportunities for people. So we are looking at the holistic approach of urban development, including transportation, because we believe that with better transportation, transport is like the blood that flows within the person. If you have blood that is flowing very well, then you have a very good or great city. And that's what we are lacking. And it takes orderliness. How do you create order? We shall be talking about it maybe later
on.
Yes.
Now that was said, you said roads are a priority here. When you talk about roads in Uganda, let's just have a glimpse into the status of our roads, because many we cherish them. Others will tell you they're in a pathetic state. Others will tell you there's so much government is doing. Today I was having a view of the Kampala Express Highway. And I'm like, yes, these guys are moving a bit. I'm not a technical person to know the speed, but at least I see something my eyes seemingly like, though it's not yet done. And I'm like, yes, so talk about this state. Our roads, what is the status of our roads according to you?
Now, we have about 150,000 kilometers of roads in the country. Between 150 and 160. Of course, there are these smaller roads. But out of those, the national roads, what you call the highways, the bigger roads being taken care of by UNRA are 20,000. You have national roads which are around 50,000, and etc. Now, we have reached about slightly above 5,000 kilometers of roads that are paved. Roads that are not maram, but they have hard surface, either bitumen or some other type. A large kilometers of roads in Uganda remain what you call earth roads or what you may call maram. Some of them are in very poor condition. Now, most of the roads that are paved are in urban areas, and specifically Kampala, of course, and its metropolitan area takes the largest number of kilometers of roads that are paved. Now, we've moved from about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, before UNRA was created, we used to have about 2,000 kilometers, so we've moved somehow. Now, the challenge is that as we are moving, we are having road death increasing. Accidents are increasing. Why? Because we are having motor vehicles importation and usage in Uganda increasing. And some research shows that the vehicle increase is not commensurate with the number of kilometers of roads. So the roads are not increasing correspondingly with the number of cars that we are importing. And specifically, we are not looking at mass transport. If you look at the number of buses that Uganda imports, they are much fewer, and especially those that we use in urban areas. It's just of recent that we've had a bus, the real mass transit, which is called Tondeka, Before we used to have some of these that are not really good buses, but we have Tondeka now, which is a modern bus manufactured by Chira, and that's better. But in terms of importation, deliberate importation of buses for mass transport, we are still lagging behind. So we have too many vehicles. We import about 3,500 vehicles per month.
3,500.
Every month, URA registered 3,500 vehicles, and they are put on our roads. Most of them are, of course, sedan and small cars, and all these cause a lot of congestion. So we are having a lot of congestion. And I want to give you one interesting statistic. Overall, I've told you the statistics of death on the road are about between 3,500 and 4,000 people dying on the road every year. We saw about over 500 people dying between November and December last year. That's a big deal. So if you have all those people dying, the interesting statistic is that of all those people that die, they die within a radius of about 50 kilometers from the Kampala city center, that is post office, going outward. You go towards Bombo. If you move out of Kampala, you go to Bombo, you go towards Mukono, you go towards Masaka Road, you go towards Entebbe Road, and that radius consumes 80% of the people that die. If we are killing, if the roads are killing 3,500 people, the majority of those die within 50 kilometers of Kampala's metropolitan area. What does that tell you? It tells you about the disorganization. The lack of orderliness of the city, specifically of transport, directly contribute to the death of people on the road. Why is it so? You've spoken about the Kampala-Entebbe Expressway and all these other roads that have come up. You see, we've not clearly de-gazetted or designed roads for clear movement.
What do you mean?
When you have a lot of congestion. Kampala city is a very small city, very tiny. Where we are seated now is part of the CBD. And most people move from the suburbs into this CBD on a daily basis because you have all these government agencies located within, most of the services. Unfortunately, the roads that serve this CBD, this small area, are very small and narrow. Remember, we have so many vehicles and we don't have buses. So when you have a combination of all that, you have confusion. Now, when a person is either when the traffic is getting out or getting in, it gets crammed. Too many vehicles trying to fight for space, a small space. Now, the reason why you have so many accidents, especially on Masaka Road, on Ginger Road, on Entebbe Road, etc., vehicles take a long, people are patient because you don't have where to move within Kampala. The moment you get out, it's like you've been let out of prison. So people drive like too reckless. You've been moving at speeds of less than 20 kilometers per hour. The average speed actually has reduced from 20 to 15 within Kampala CBD. So when you are patient within Kampala because you don't have anywhere to go, the moment you move away from the city, you increase speed in order to catch up. And that's where accidents are happening mostly. Kampala Masaka Road is death. If you are on that road, if you are on Kampala-Entebbe Expressway, and you are not fully in charge of the car, you are not driving your car and you are other drivers, be sure that you are going to be either knocked or you are going to knock. Because people are trying to catch up, to catch the time they lost within the city. And that's the issue that we have to address as a country. How do we make sure that the speeds within the CBD, within the city, are increased because time is money.
Now that brings me to something. Now we're looking at the relationship between road safety and urban development.
Yes.
Because when I look at the connection, that is now what we are looking at. But the big question would be, most of our urban centers develop accidentally. I don't know if you're getting it.
Yes.
That we don't plan for them to be.
Yes.
Like government may say, let's purchase this land, it's going to be an industrial park. That is a planned development. When it comes to urban cities, we all have villages. One time, the whole place maybe was even a kind of a forest, something funny. You go back after 20 years, man, people have built flats, people have built shops, there is business. Sooner or later, it's an urban city. We saw how many cities, government places, they granted city status, the likes of Masaka, Mbale, these were not that. So then how do we ensure that these unplanned developments do not land us in situations that we have in Kampala today? Because I'm very sure if these accidents happen in this short radius we've talked about, from Kampala, and 80% of them, now that means in the next 20 years, when you have sub-Kampalas throughout Uganda that are like 7 of them, these accidents are going to double. So how do we address that?
We have to go back to the drawing board. We have to redesign our city and our cities. And you know, Kampala is like the oldest child of Uganda. Following are other cities that the government has gazetted, Mbarara, Gulu, and etc. and others. So we have to, because a city is like a skeleton. You have this skeleton. We have bodies. Bodies, and inside our bodies are skeletons, and the skeleton involves the buildings, the roads, the infrastructure. So we have to cut the body in order to look into the skeleton of Kampala. And what does that mean? We really must stop talking about Kampala, the boundaries of Kampala city as we know them. Because the boundaries of Kampala stretch from, if you move to the north of the city, Kampala stops at Chanja. That's about less than 15 kilometers. That's the boundary of Kampala. If you go to the east, Kampala stops at Bweyogerere. That's the boundary. If you go to Masaka, Chengera, it is. So that is the small enclave of the city. And that's where you have the administration of KCCA stopping. So you can't plan that nucleus without planning the entire place, including Wakiso. Because, again, over 70% of people who work in Kampala live in Wakiso. So how do you plan for the city whose biggest population you are not in control of? The people who move, who come into the city live in Mukono and Wakiso and Entebbe and others. The few people, there are very few people who are still residing in Kampala. I don't know where you reside. But
I reside in Kampala.
Oh, for you, you are city. You have remained in the city. So
as I work towards leaving the city.
Okay, yeah, because it's expensive. So we must do the surgery. We must determine where people live and how they live, and most importantly, how they will move. Today, by coming here, I live about 18 kilometers away from the city, and I left my home around 7. But it took me all the way. When I reached near the city, you find that the vehicles have become too many. And I wouldn't mind, by the way, using a bus. If there was an alternative, a bus that is clean, that takes me from my home area to the city, I would be comfortable. So we have to do surgery first, dealing with transport. We have to deal with transport to determine how the people will be moving. I want to equate the city to blood. You must have, if you want a city that is functional, you must have It's like a body. You don't need clothes. You need blood that is moving all the way from the head, from the heart, to the farthest part of the brain and to the farthest part of the toe, and moving efficiently so that it keeps moving. That's exactly the same way transport should be. There shouldn't be holdups. So we need to regulate the number of cars that we're importing, but also make sure that we have buses as we work on trains. That would solve a lot of problems. The other surgery would be to make sure that how people are going to live. We have to make sure we have what are called condominium. Because we are still a poor country and having poor people, people still build these small houses. 1 room, 2 rooms on less than 50 feet by 50 feet. Some of them, maybe the affluent, are living on 50 feet by 100 feet. So we must make sure that we create an institution that will champion the issue of condominium. Condominium means building vertically, not horizontally. Otherwise, the city, this city of ours, is going to actually Kampala within the next 20 to 30 years will have completely taken over most of these cities surrounding it. Entebbe, Mpigi, Mukono, of course, now is almost like Kampala, etc. So if you have the city that is sprawling and you have not managed the transportation system, you are calling for disaster. It's just disaster in waiting. First of all, in terms of accidents. Secondly, in terms of time wastage, most importantly. So we must create the vehicles moving. And I want to make one important point. There was some design. We are right now thinking about creating the expressways. Kampala, Masaka, Kampala, Kampala Mpigi, Kampala Jinja, etc. Kampala Bombo. You may look at it as a good thing, but I think it is not.
Why isn't it?
Because you have a very huge mass road that doesn't have arteries that are almost the same size. So if you have Kampala, for instance, Kampala Mpigi, which is currently ongoing, they are constructing it, a big road, mass road, that is going to push, that is going to have a lot of vehicles, multi-lane. But there are no roads that feed it. From the city center, the CBD that I told you about, how are you going to make sure that vehicles access that road? That's the first thing we must deal with. But even when they access, we must create arteries of roads that link to it. And again, most importantly, we must design our city transportation system based on ring roads.
Now, our question 1 that you're going to be answering shortly after the break, we'll be going for a very short one, is we must understand what is the possibility, because, you know, there's urban planners who feel that we should abandon Kampala. Tanzania did it, Nigeria did it. They said no, now we just have to come up with another city and leave alone Kampala. Is it still workable, or have we, because when you look at first the spacing, 2, the legalities also. You know, government wants this program here, there's someone who says, willing buyer, willing seller, I'm costing this. 3rd, political influence. Government says you must break this and move on. Someone is saying, you're going to displace my voters. Where are they going? So with all these issues factored in, when we return from this break, we want to see, is it a possibility, or it is just you, the experts, coming up with theoretical things that may not be applicable? Yes, let's go for this break.
From UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Click of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
Get away with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial star 165 star 5 star 3 hash to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
Welcome to English in a Minute. A shotgun is a gun with a long barrel. It is mainly used for hunting. So, what does it mean to call shotgun?
For tomorrow's work trip, Ashley is coming with us.
I call shotgun.
You can't call shotgun.
Look, I know usually you can't call shotgun the day before a car trip, but I just did. So I'm sitting in front.
No, you're not. Ashley is driving, so her dog Dublin will be riding shotgun.
When you call shotgun, you are claiming the seat next to the driver. This expression comes from the days of the Wild West. In a covered wagon or stagecoach, the person sitting next to the driver held a shotgun. This was for protection. And that's English in a Minute.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Good morning and thank you so much for being with us here on UBC News. Some sad news coming in, that is the death of Ambassador Hassan Galiwango, and that is on your screen just coming in. Uganda's High Commissioner to Kenya Ambassador Dr. Hassan Galiwango is dead. He passed away this morning at Nairobi Hospital where he was receiving treatment. We pray for the family of the late and also may his soul rest in eternal peace. Well, God be with you till we meet again. Away from that, of course, it's very sad to Ugandans, his family, the NRM fraternity also. We continue to pray for the good Lord to strengthen them. But also coming back now to the question we had before we went for this short break, is it still possible? Or are we just having theories on paper? That, for example, looking at how people are going to live in these urban centers, maybe that is something manageable. That we can have water, we can have light, we can have that. But when we look at changes in the transport network, because mobility is key in development, no one argues about that. I'm just going to give you a simple example. I was driving through and I saw that where the Electoral Commission was, their offices now are no longer there because they are paving way for the construction. But just imagine if this was private property and government wants to pass a road through that area. That land is so prime right now. How much it would cost government to compensate that person just for them to have this meaningful infrastructure go through. So are some of the challenges that we usually find.
You see, one of the biggest challenges that that urban planners face is lack of support from the political leaders. Now, cities are built by cities are built by politicians, guided by technocrats, supported by planners, and the population, the general population. Now, the fundamental question that is always asked is, who bears the cat? If I ask you, who is in charge of urban development in Uganda? Who? It's, you may say it's KCCA in terms, in form of, for Kampala,
yes.
but is it true? There must be a champion in terms of an institution and in terms of an individuals who should bear the vision of where are we going. Again, if I pose another question, who determines if we were to shift the capital city of Kampala?
Oh, it will have to come to Parliament.
Would Parliament, and who in Parliament would choose that, would decide that? We must identify the critical flag bearers or vision bearers for urban development in Uganda if we want to go far. The issue you've raised about transferring the capital city is long overdue. Kampala is the administrative, the commercial, the residential, the industrial. You can't have a city with all those activities when we have land, when we have other urban areas. So we needed to have shifted the capital long time ago. And good enough it used to be in Entebbe, the capital city. The ministries needed to have remained in Entebbe so that Kampala remains a commercial city. Right now, one of the things that really that really I felt bad about was having Parliament constructing its chambers again here, expanding it. One of the biggest contributors to congestion in Kampala is the members of Parliament. You have over 500 members of Parliament with their drivers, with their kin, and with their people who come to look for them, all coming and cramming into the city. That chamber can be put outside the city. You don't need the city center to come to debate or to pass laws. It would be very comforting to have that Parliament relocated farther away, about 60 kilometers or even more. Actually put it in another city altogether, and you would have decongested. So we need to have that conversation, but who will start on it? Who will start it? Is it the
Also,
president?
when things are happening, the reverse is true. Those that would be leading in this process are coming at the tail end.
Exactly.
Because if you're telling me a politician builds a city, then the technical people come, this with a planner, where it should begin, it's actually the opposite.
Actually, because the discussion of transferring the capital city has been on for a long time. But there's nobody who would come, someone champion it and say, we have to change, to shift to the capital city. It goes also hand in hand with how are we developing our city. If I ask you the vision of Kampala city, I'm sure you don't know it. How do we develop our city? How do we want our city to be in the next 10, 20, or 50 years? Is it a commercial? Is it going to be a tourism city? Is it going to be an international city? Is it going to be a cosmopolitan? All these things must be conceptualized by people in the know, and they must propagate them to the politicians and to the population. One of the interesting things I've been coming across has been the issue of boda boda. Before I go back to your point of Electoral Commission and roads, the boda boda. Every year there is a discussion. We need to push boda bodas out of the city. But who does? And where will they go? And what exactly, in terms of concrete proposals, are you proposing? If they go out, what will happen? What exactly are we
You're
building?
extending the problem to other areas.
Exactly. What exactly are you trying to solve, and how are you going to solve it? One of my first proposals would be, you need to speak to these boda boda people and tell them, actually boda bodas are not, are not wanted in this city. Because they paratransit, it's called paratransit. It is one of the most incompetent, most poor transport system anywhere in the world. And cities that have them suffer. So you need to speak to the boda bodas and tell them, for instance, we are giving you 5 years. Within 5 years, we don't expect you, if you want to invest, please, don't think about investing in bodabodas because we will not allow you in Kampala. So in 5 years, reorganize yourselves and begin thinking whether you are going to buy buses or something like that, so that they begin to know. The biggest problem we have is that we come up with haphazard interventions. Today you issue a statement and you see no bodabodas in the city center. Is it possible? The person has been earning bread, has been fending for their family based on bodaboda. You can't chase them just like that. How did they come in the first place?
Give them technical knockout. Who doesn't have this, who doesn't have this. Then, of course, you know, they may be hard for everyone to get. And, of course, with the enforcement, then they will technically say, well, Kampala is hard for us. Let's go to the outskirts.
They become thieves and they terrorize the whole village, all the villages, all the areas. You know, we don't need to be like Nigeria, Lagos. Just a month ago, they told bodabodas in just 2 days, they said, don't step in the city of Lagos. Finally, they got all these bodabodas, put them in one place, and crushed them using a caterpillar, a bomber. They stepped on them and crushed all of them. You don't want to do that. You need to move with them, show us the vision of Kampala, and let everybody move according to that plan. Where do we want our city to be in the next 10 years? Even if it is wrong, by the way, if all of us follow, it will be orderly. Not having one going this side and another one this side, and we are all moving in every direction. You have bodabodas, you have buses, you have someone thinking about trains, you have someone thinking about tuk-tuk, you have people building in anywhere, you have people living, you know, it's all jumbled up, it's all confusion. So if you have one vision with a few people coming and propagating that vision and saying, this is where we are going as a city, in the next 10 years, within Kampala CBD, we will not have any bodaboda. And everyone begins to work on that vision. It will be achievable. Let's not, I'm sure this year you will hear KCCA coming up once and say, we are banning bodabodas. Out of nowhere. And of course they won't ban them.
From the CDB.
So, going back to your question about for instance, the Electoral Commission and etc., it's all part of poor planning. The fact that cities are not like villages, Kampala on average receives about 10,000 people, 10,000 new entrants every month. New people coming in. So you have Kampala now, the population, the estimates are varying, but daytime population of Kampala city is about 4.5 million. That's all people congregating in one place. We all know that when you are having a party, the fact that you are going to have so many people congregating in your area, in your home, you plan for where they will do
well, they'll ease themselves.
Ease themselves. You'll plan how they will eat. You'll plan how etc. Because there are many. You are not used to your family of 5 or how many people. You plan for big. Now talk about 4.5 million people every day, descending on the city, and they don't have any ways of transport. They don't have clear means of survival. They don't have how to move and etc. etc. It's about planning for them. And you wouldn't blame those people who speculate about land. First of all, it is wrong for government to be constructing roads within the CBD. It's archaic. And various times I've told you that, for instance, that flyover project was one of the biggest mistakes we've done as a country. And we will live to regret it. That one I
justify that.
Exactly that.
There's excitement. It is something we know is going to solve decongestion in this country.
It will
is
not.
Modern.
It will not, because modernity doesn't solve problems necessarily. That road, again, is not linked to the roads that would be evacuating traffic, or either saturating it or evacuating it out of the city. And that is the fundamental issue when you are designing roads. Where do roads take traffic? Again, to my analogy of of blood. If you are bringing traffic and dropping it somewhere and so that it sorts itself out, you are creating a clot in the blood. It means the traffic will reach somewhere and stop. And so the traffic is being picked for this flyover. It's being picked at what is this place, Clock Tower, and being dropped around the Electoral Commission. Where is the mass road that will take that traffic either way?
Ginger Road, you continue.
Ginger Road is so small. It's smaller in terms of capacity. You need a bigger capacity road again to evacuate that traffic to the farthest part
Maybe
of the
a
city.
2x2.
Yes, exactly. But we don't have them. And even at Clock Tower, if vehicles are coming from Ginger Road and are dropped at Clock Tower, you know it's a very big problem. One of the biggest problems is that we don't have an access road to the Kampala-Entebbe Expressway and even the northern bypass. So you need a road which was supposed to have been designed to pick traffic from Clock Tower up to Entebbe Expressway and all the way. But that is not done. But even moving away from that, when a city has been messed up, an old city like Kampala, which was built in 1920s, you don't want to come and break it when there is land.
Where is the land?
The land is outside in Wakiso. You have...
Well, here there is the Kampala Metropolitan Development Area. Plan for these
Yes,
areas.
you have Wakiso. Roads in Wakiso are completely impassable. You don't have roads. And you are coming to break the buildings within the Kampala Central Business District to put a flyover that is 1 kilometer from here to here, not linked to these other bigger roads. So are you evacuating? How are you going to make sure that the traffic will keep moving? The fundamental principle of city planning requires that you make sure that vehicles keep on moving and they have less and less holdups. That's the principle. It's simple. When you have areas where there are like junctions or whatever, and that's why you have these roundabouts being redesigned,
yes,
so that you have vehicles keeping on moving. Then you have managed traffic. But the moment you bring in this sort of modernity, like a flyover, which vehicles will just climb and move up immediately and find traffic jam where they will move off, then you are creating a lot of problems. So the issue of the Electoral Commission, the prices of land within the city and CBD are naturally expensive. If that land was for an individual, they can easily ask for any money because land belongs to individuals according to the Constitution. And I can sell my land.
Willing buyer, willing seller.
Yeah, you may value it.
That saga we shall never forget.
Exactly.
There was a willing buyer, there was a willing seller. So the cost is not something you can debate about.
Because I have my land, I know its value. I can say my land is worth 100 billion. You may value it at 2 billion.
But me, that is what I've said.
That's what I've said. So the best alternative is for you to leave the city the way it is. Try to manage what is manageable within Kampala. Because right now, if you are doing, it's like when a person is on oxygen and you want to do a major surgery, it's not possible. Kampala City right now, you can't do a major surgery. And that road, that flyover was a major surgery. Unfortunately, which is going to go bad.
Well, I have the expert here giving his input to that, but we wait and see. Usually time tells it all. Will this be something that we'll be very glad about, or will it be something that may have all this? But work is in progress. We just have to wait, and this will either prove some right or prove some wrong. But some, as we come to the end of this, we've talked about leaving the city the way it is and concentrate on its outskirts that are also growing very, very fast. And also they are growing amidst the mistakes that were done in Kampala, where we do not have deliberate plans. I one time traveled out of Uganda and went to some country I won't mention, but not very far from us. And this is what I found. Specific areas are gazetted for specific constructions. You know you want to do something, that is the area you must take it. Here what happens, a place is somehow residential, then the old people die, their sons, and they begin selling, then you see a nightclub coming up. Because it is private. Then someone will have a small industry there, it develops, he can buy those near him, then it is an industry there. So the mistakes that we did in Kampala, or happened as Kampala was developing, are the same mistakes happening in these other areas. You're saying now let's plan. So where do we draw the line? What must we really do to ensure we avoid the mistakes? Because assuming just that, you know, if we leave Kampala, then here we can do things well. Yet it's the same development chain that is happening. It was a house of someone, this person, the children grew up there, the fathers died, they are selling to someone else who is willing to come and set up a factory. Indeed, it is a factory. Then the factory expands, they need more land, they buy a Chirabo who is next, they give him good money. He says, let me now extend further into Achiso. So I don't think we're doing anything different.
We've been, you know what is, there's what is called informality. And some cities have grown like that, informally, where there's hardly any government hand. Government allows people to do whatever they want, and the city grows. And we have these cities in India, specifically. Mumbai and others have the same. And they have been grappling with this. Unfortunately, they are not capitals. So, but even they realized their mistake, and they are trying to collect them for the new cities that are coming up. So informality means that you allow people like Katwe to do as they wish in terms of building. If there is some space, if they leave space for roads, then that will be it. If there is no space, then you go by that. And that is what we are perpetuating. That's what we are promoting in the country. It's very absurd. You have developments. Land is the most important resource, even in economics, factors of production. So you must plan your land at individual level, but also at country level. There is need. There was something that was fundamentally important, but which government never put in a lot of effort. The Kampala Metropolitan Planning Authority. There is also the National Physical Plan. There is also the National Transport Master Plan, etc., etc. Now, those need to be activated. We must determine who is going to build where and why and what. The challenge is that land, again, belongs to individuals. But even then, government takes an upper hand. You know, there is something that has that we've grown with. It's called zoning. We used to have industrial area. We used to have areas that that are known, like Chiseka market for a vehicle, whatever.
Yeah, spare parts.
Yes, zoning is very important in a city, and you can't do away with it. It determines the orderly functioning of the city, and that's where we must go back to. But I want to emphasize one thing. If we deal with transport, we will have solved half of the problem. And one of the first things we need to do is to encourage mass transport and NMT, non-motorized transport, specifically walking. Because Kampala city is small, one of the proposals I would guess, I would give, would be, for instance, to try to turn one of the roads, specifically Buganda Road. The whole of that Buganda Road should be turned into an NMT, non-motorized. Only people that walk on foot and those that cycle, full stop. And you try that. Not these flyovers. Bring the people who come into contact with the Buganda Road, right from Wandege, above public service, can decide to walk all the way into the city and back. Maybe create some other space for only the bicycles, Mainga Chifuba. There you are helping the city. The moment we keep on saying we don't have space and we are building roads specifically for cars, we are boxing ourselves into a corner and we will not be able to get out of it in the long and short run.
Well, so much advice there and solutions to how we can ensure that we have planned development. More so when it comes also to issues of mobility, because we know mobility is key in development. But that also goes to the lives of people within these areas. And I've been with here an expert in that. That is Sam Mutabazi, Stewart Weapons with the Executive Director, Uganda Road Sector Support Initiative. We pray and hope, Sam, that some of these, you know, when you go to a number of government bodies, authorities, there are so many good plans, but on shelf. We hope they'll be implemented. There are so many working papers, working documents that have not seen the light of day, but they could serve so much. I hope such input is captured and, of course, implemented. Well, for now, I'll let Sam go, and, of course, I'll be waiting to have you tomorrow, same time. Stay safe. Let's all love our country and share a hand of kindness to anybody, more so as we go through a number of challenges. We continue to pray for the family of the late, now the foreign ambassador, that is Hassan Gariwango, the NRM fraternity, and of course, the family. May the good Lord continue to strengthen them at this trying moment. Have a lovely day.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Get connected today